Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Flint. I am Sandra Murphy and prefer the pronouns she, her, hers. I will be the worship associate for this, our Pride Month celebration. We, as Unitarian Universalists, affirm and promote our respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And so, we remember today the Pulse nightclub massacre, the 49 victims, their families and friends. We all grieve and recognize that Orlando's loss is our loss. We are a welcoming community because we value diversity. We welcome and support people who identify as LGBTQINA+. We welcome and support people of all income levels, educational backgrounds, spiritual journeys, and political beliefs. You are welcomed here. If you are searching for a church that believes love, the quest for justice, and the use of reason are the most important things, then our congregation may be right for you. To learn more, please contact one of our ministers, the Revlynn and Jerry Kerr. Their contact information can be found on our website, uuflint.org. We have some announcements. Our second Sunday collection is for Wellness Service Incorporated, the only nonprofit in Genesee County whose mission is to provide safe and quality services to the LGBTQ community. These services include HIV and AIDS testing and treatment. You can support wellness by either making a gift online at uuflint.org or by sending a check to the office with wellness on the memo line. These donations can be made throughout the month. If you want to learn more about the needs of the LGBTQ community in our county, you can catch a podcast sponsored by the Community Foundation of Greater Flint on June 17th at noon. This podcast will feature Stevie Atkins, Director of Wellness, and Nisi Holloman, Director of Voices for Children. Do you want to have the right words when talking with people who are transgender and feel bad when you don't? Join our ministers online Wednesday, June 16th at 6 p.m. for a kindred conversation entitled, Having the Right Words in a Non-Binary World. The Zoom link is in your weekly update newsletter. And as an ally, I want to thank our ministers for doing this. All the education I can get just makes me a better advocate. Thanks to everyone who attended and all those who planned the wonderful endowment celebration and volunteer of the year picnic event held Saturday. More details will be shared throughout this month about how you can financially support our 4090 endowment campaign. Our summer lunch gatherings are happening. Please join us in the church every Saturday at noon to socialize with friends you have not seen in a while. Bring your own lunch and a chair. While our office assistant is on a much-deserved vacation for a few days in June and July, we need folks to answer the phones and do basic office tasks. Please contact Revlynn if you can help. Join us for our congregational meeting at 11:30 following the service, and please note that this will be our coffee hour together. The Zoom ID can be found on our website, Facebook page, and in the e-update. Now, I invite you to enjoy our prelude by Jennifer Howard. Our chalice lighting words are by George Kimmich Beach. In the mystery of life about us, there is light. It gives us a place to be, to grow, to rejoice together, and to be ourselves. And now, will you join me in reciting our covenant? Recognizing the richness of diversity, the beauty and wonder of shared worship, and the transforming power of love and service, we gather as a sacred, intentional community to freely seek knowledge and truth, to celebrate the fullness of life, and by our actions to increase goodness and justice.
Good morning. The human race is a vast rainbow bursting into view of white, black, red, yellow, and brown. Yet for all, blood is red, the sky is blue, the earth brown. For all, there are fingers to touch, hearts to break, eyes to cry, ears to hear. We all have the same mouths to speak, groping for ways to say love, peace, pity, and hope. Boundaries divide us, mark our diversity. Maps separate the human race from itself. Yet a mother's grief, a father's love, a child's cry, a musician's sound shatter the walls. Strength and weakness live together in each one, reminding us that we share a common humanity. We are all more human than otherwise.
Our meditation this morning is an excerpt from an article in The Guardian by Hugh Lemmy, Party and Protest. In early July 1969, a U.S. soldier stationed in Long Binh, Vietnam, opened his army newspaper and came across an article that would change his life. Among the stories of the ongoing war, specialist Henry Baird noticed an unusual headline. Over the past week in New York City, hundreds of homosexuals had fought police in a week-long riot in Greenwich Village, following a botched police raid on the Stonewall Inn, a bar frequented by LGBTQ+ people. Years later, Baird would recount to a radio producer that his heart was filled with joy. I thought about what I had read frequently, but I had no one to discuss it with. And secretly, within myself, I decided that when I came back stateside, if I should survive to come back stateside, I would come out as a gay person.
When our heart is in a holy place, our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. Our heart is in a holy place. When we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed, every kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed tell our story deep within, and we listen with our hearts and our minds, and we hear our voices in each other's words. Then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, and our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. And our heart is in a holy place. When we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we trust the power in each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. Then our heart is in a holy place. Thank you, everyone. Peace and love.
Our reading is another excerpt from the Guardian article, Party and Protest. In 1965, the gay rights homophile movement began to tackle what they thought were subversive elements in their own group, and instead oriented themselves around respectability. Following a picket of the White House, activist Craig Rodwell suggested a yearly protest that would become known as the annual reminder. The annual reminder, that is, that homosexuals were respectable people, adhering to a strict dress code of shirt and tie for men and dresses for women. 39 activists from various homophile organizations turned up to ask for equality, opportunity, and dignity. The bravery of these men and women cannot be overstated, but the approach of quiet, polite lobbying would make few inroads into a culture of institutionalized homophobia. It didn't matter if homosexuals were successful, law-abiding, and conventional. In 1965, they were still un-American.
It was an unusual beginning to a rebellion. A bunch of people at a gay bar, some of them men dressed as women, were roughed up by the police, really roughed up. They were thrown around and taken away handcuffed to the paddy wagons waiting nearby. The people hadn't hurt anyone in any way. Yes, there was some illegal bootleg liquor at the bar, but make no mistake about it, people were being arrested because they were different. They were treated like criminals because they were holding hands, even dancing with people of their own sex, and because some men were dressed as women. They were considered illegal and immoral actions in 1969, but the people who frequented the bar, known as the Stonewall Inn, didn't want to be called illegal or immoral any longer. The patrons of the Stonewall Inn had had all the mistreatment they could stomach. They lived in a world where being gay could get you savagely beaten, murdered, kicked out of public spaces, private clubs, your apartment, and your family. It could get you arrested, fired, and in general, scorned as a pariah. As the laws of physics would have it, the gay, lesbian, and transgender people of the Stonewall Inn were ready to explode. As far as they were concerned, they were respectable citizens, and they decided to demand some of that respect. It was on the night of June 28th, 52 years ago, that some cops unwisely tried to bully these justifiably pissed off people. When they tried to put 15 of them into the paddy wagons, they started resisting arrest. Young people in the crowd started throwing pennies at the cops. It's all they had. They were homeless gay youth. What they had to throw? Pennies. As the cops got rougher, so did the crowd that would not disperse, and now they threw bottles. Eventually, the police had to retreat into the bar and call for help. Similar things happened for the next 4 nights as an LGBT army spontaneously formed and kept coming back to the Stonewall front line to rally and fight on. Of course, their enemy was not just the police. It was the old laws and old-fashioned mores that declared they were illegal and immoral. But now, let us fast forward from 1969, 30 years to 1999, when the U.S. National Park Service placed Stonewall Inn on the National Register of Historic Places. Then, 17 years more, in 2016, President Barack Obama designated the site of the Stonewall Uprising a national monument. And finally, in 2019, shortly before the 50th anniversary of the rebellion, New York City's police commissioner issued an apology on behalf of the police department saying, "The actions taken by the NYPD were wrong, plain and simple." You might naturally wonder, how do we get from being a nation where it was a crime for people of the same sex to hold hands to being a nation that makes a monument to apologize for that stupidity? We might reasonably want to discover the seemingly secret formula that led to this success. Perhaps then we could describe the steps and give the knowledge to people of other countries where being gay is still considered punishable by imprisonment or death. June is Pride Month, a time to savor victories and to also ask what went right for a change. Figure it out and then give that gem to the world. When Lynn and I lived in Massachusetts in 1998, my job as a case manager for people living with HIV required weekly visits to a walk-in center in the oceanside city of Lynn, Massachusetts. Lynn, Massachusetts was a city so poor and crime-ridden that the locals created a poem about it. "Lynn, Lynn, the city of sin, you'll never come out the way you went in. What looks like gold is really tin. Lynn, Lynn, the city of sin, if you ain't bad, you can't even get in. Lynn, Lynn, the city of sin." The walk-in center was a suite of rooms on the top floor of a decrepit brick office building. The door to what we called Cornerstone was on the top floor, back in the corner, so that clients could enter with less chance of having a friend or a relative see them enter a door that was about HIV. The plaque on the door that said Cornerstone didn't mention HIV/AIDS services. It was there that I would help clients navigate the paperwork for programs that might help them a little with a very common triple diagnosis of HIV, aggravated by poverty, and often drug addiction. From my very well-worn desk in my very humble little office, I could see out into the living room where people would sit on beat-up, donated couches and chat. There were women infected with HIV by men, gay men black, white, brown, Latino. There were injection drug users, many of them Dominican and Puerto Rican Americans, and all of them were poor. Their struggles were linked together because their HIV put them all in the same boat. Few of them looked like radical activists fighting prejudice and discrimination in its many forms. Jenna was the girl who played football in high school on the boys' team. If she needed a food voucher or a taxi ride, she knew how to ask for it. Wayne was an ex-rockabilly drummer who talked about when, as a young man, how good he could play his drums at the local bar after injecting some heroin. Wayne's job at the old Lynn shoe factory went away in the late 50s, but the heroin stayed in town. But somehow, Wayne defeated his heroin addiction, not a common thing. Then there was Doug, a homeless man who, as a little boy, was given plenty of moonshine to drink. One day, he said to me in a weak, husky, desperate voice, "Jerry, I just can't stop drinking." One day, Doug went to a clothing giveaway and scored a new pair of brand new, nice warm pack boots. He asked me to store them at Cornerstone so he could get them from me come winter. None of the Cornerstone people was an AIDS activist, but neither were they resigned to their presumed status as the helpless, HIV-infected, sinful residents of Lynn, Massachusetts. When you read the history of the gay rights movement, something becomes very clear. Sometimes people fighting for the right to be who they are get mad and very publicly and very angrily demand fair treatment. They usually, but not always, stop short of violence. Members of the ACT UP group spread ashes of people who died of AIDS onto the White House lawn, much to George H.W. Bush's dismay. That got some attention, but not everyone can be a radical activist. And it's also clear that those not on the front lines of the battle did their part too. Just showing yourself to be a proud human being who is in need of help can move public awareness and powerful people to do the right thing. As the poet Milton said, "They also serve who only stand and wait." It's obviously not true that everyone can be up front leading the charge, but Marsha P. Johnson could and did. An African American, born as Malcolm Michaels, he started wearing dresses when he was 5. He moved to New York City when he was 17 with $15 and a bag of clothing. Now, he could be the she had always been. She was now Marsha P. Johnson, and like many other people who were transgender back then, she became a sex worker to survive. Transvestites, as they were called in the 60s, had a very hard time getting hired for any other work. She didn't arrive at the Stonewall until the rebellion was in full swing, but she made up for lost time by climbing a telephone with a bag full of bricks and dropping them onto a police car's windshield. The police had set fire to the only place that accepted her, the Stonewall Inn, and she was very mad. She would be at the forefront of gay rights work in New York City for the rest of her life. She was a celebrity, photographed with Andy Warhol for her activism, and she had her own televised stage show. But then her husband was murdered by the police, and in 1992, Marjorie Johnson was apparently murdered by a gay-hating gang and thrown into the Hudson River. Some said it was a suicide, but people who knew Marcia knew better. You might say Marcia Johnson and the many other transgender people at the heart of the gay rights movement were born to be gay rights activists. No one can better know that a person's mind does not always match their birth body, but the mind is in charge and must be respected. I often think of the Cornerstone people, who were not at all like Marcia Johnson or the other leaders spreading human ashes on the White House lawn. But you can only have just so many Stonewall rebellions, and there are other ways people can help bring sanity and fairness to the world. When a human being has a radical need for help and acceptance, that can also change people's minds. The story of their need just has to be told so it can enlighten prejudice-prone people. One exciting summer day in Lynn, the city of sin, I helped Wayne, the ex-drummer who defeated heroin, move into coveted public housing. It was an old shoe factory turned into apartments for people of low income. And get this, it was the very same shoe factory where Wayne worked so many years before as a young man. He qualified for the housing because the early HIV medications had given him vicious neuropathy in his feet. He could barely walk. I loved thinking of Wayne being comfortable there in his very own brand new government-supplied apartment. The apartment was made necessary in large part because of America's failed war on drugs and HIV that treated drug-addicted, HIV-infected people, gay or not, like sinners and criminals. Our President Reagan was so deathly frightened of gay people, he could not or would not take action. If he had taken action sooner, safe drugs would have come along much earlier and decreased human suffering and the enormous cost of the AIDS epidemic. The multiplication of errors was easy to see, and people like Wayne were the product. He was now a fitting ward of the state, in no small part because of state-caused problems. There was no enabling going on here, just damage control in a society that often preferred prejudice over helping people. The summer turned into fall, and then fall into winter, but Doug, who just could not stop drinking, did not come back for his boots. One day, a month or two later, a client told me Doug had died of a heroin overdose. I kept his new, never-worn boots for 20 years. They were my size, and I was sure I would use them one day and remember him every time I did. I could never bring myself to put them on. It was all just too sad. They also serve who only stand and wait and sometimes die of an overdose. I don't know what happened to Gina, the girl who played football with the boys, or to the many other non-sinners on my caseload. They were just like millions of other HIV-positive people in America who were perfectly respectable, no matter what others said. All of them had something to offer the gay rights movement. It was their presence as respectable people in need of help because of a terrible disease. Whether they were gay or not, the plight was their unspoken protest against any form of foolish pride or prejudice. Like the Cornerstone people I knew who lived in Lynn, the so-called city of sin, their presumed sin was not the problem. It wasn't the gay people or the drug users or the HIV-infected people who were the sinners. The sin, the immoral act, was what America and its prejudiced Americans did to poor and gay and drug-addicted people. That was the sin. The foolish pride and prejudices of putatively straight, supposedly drug and virus-free people. That was the problem. Thankfully, as the physics of recreation would have it, that corporate sin was the perfect dark background against which the light of a pure pride stood out in bold contrast. It was the pure pride of people who just wanted to be treated with dignity. They fought poverty, drug addiction, homophobia, and HIV, and they were a shining light of truth about pain that any halfway rational person with any feelings at all could easily see. Millions of Americans did see their plight and were moved to help. The Cornerstone people were activists. They were not at all like forefront leaders like Marsha Johnson or the many other brave leaders, but they kept their pride in themselves and they made themselves a cornerstone in the gay rights movement. America's Cornerstone people were a big part of the gay rights mass marches on America. It has been noted by many that those marches transformed the anti-gay attitudes of many Americans. They marched in 1979, 1987, and then in 1993, nearly 1 million people marched for gay rights. It was perhaps the largest march on Washington ever, and to this day. Social historians believe those marches expanded the movement and the LGBT community's sense of worth and power. One marcher wrote passionately about the astonishing experience of standing in a crowd of hundreds of thousands of protesters, being openly gay and proud of it in public, in the sunlight, in the nation's capital, on the nation's mall. Now that was coming out. So, what can we learn from the victories of the gay rights movement? Is there a secret to its success? I don't think there is a secret, but the unplanned, spontaneous tactic that helped win the battle is often forgotten. It is often discounted as being too simple, too obvious. I believe it was the honest, persistent cry for respect, compassion, and acceptance that won the fight. That cry was out there, on the TV, in books, on radio, in movies, on the stage, in poetry. It was everywhere. The personal stories that showed the humanity of people who deserved justice was everywhere. The millions who saw them and decided to choose love, not hate, they are proof that humans can rise above their foolish pride and deadly prejudice. To put it another way, Stonewall launched the gay rights movement and is now a national monument, not because the people in 1969 were polite or well-dressed, but because they showed their heartfelt longing for some simple respect. I know it is true that the fight for LGBT rights is in many ways very different from the battles for racial justice, women's right, the need to be safe from gun violence, and from the many other battlefronts we all know so well. But in one very important way, they are all exactly the same. In every fight for justice, there are people with their stories and their human longing and pain. The stories have all the drama and pain of a modern Stonewall rebellion or of a homeless person who never returns for their boots. Let us tell the stories and try to change the world again. Thank you.
I am here, I am whole as I am. I am safe, I am loved as I am. I am grateful and I'm free. I'm as perfect as can be. I am here, I am whole as I am. Nothing can illuminate the darkness like a serenade. Nothing can make peace like a song. Got a ways to go, but then we're closer than we've ever been. So let's walk together on and on. I am here, I am whole as I am. I am safe, I am loved as I am. I am grateful and I'm free. And I'm as perfect as can be. I am here, I am whole as I am. I propose a family that looks a lot like you and me, including all the people that we love. Then we'll take a photograph of everybody as they laugh, put it in a book entitled Us. I am here, I am whole as I am. I am safe, I am loved as I am. Grateful and I'm free, and I'm as perfect as can be. I am here, I am whole as I am. May seem just like a song, may seem just like a thought, but it will soon take hold, become a truth that's taught for generations, generations, generations. Sing along. I am here, I am whole as I am. I am safe, I am loved as I am. I am grateful and just as I am.
Thank you, Bonnie. Now's the time for generosity and gratitude. Giving to UUCF is always the right thing to do, and here is why. Your financial contribution demonstrates your support for the values and messages we share with this community. Your financial contribution makes you a part of the larger body whose gifts strengthen our faith community. It's easy to do. Go online at uuflint.org or send a check to the church office. Think of this as the passing of the basket. You have a couple of bucks in your wallet and you're pitching it in. We need your support. You can honor someone or make a gift in memory. And lastly, we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of our endowment fund and the 90th anniversary of UUCF. So consider making a one-time gift of either $40 or $90 to the endowment. That gift will continue to give back to UUCF long after we are all gone. For more information or to talk with somebody about leaving a gift in your estate plan, contact the ministers or Shauna Bell. To make a gift to our annual budget, go online or send a check. Thank you for the many ways that you all give to UUCF.
Life is a brief interval between birth and death. May we celebrate the interval with joy. May we sing the song that belongs to us. May we act as if our very life depended on it.
Let us extinguish the chalice, and if you are at home, you may do that with us. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth or the fire of commitment. The warmth of community or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we together again.